Chris Eubank Senior warned everyone about the damage his son could do, and tragically for Nick Blackwell, that prophecy came true in 2016. The Brighton stylist ran through Blackwell with blast beat combinations, ending Blackwell's career and sending him into a coma. In Elliot Worsell's book Dog Rounds, he writes about working as a press officer for the fight, stirring the pot as the mood became ever darker. What were Elliot's reflections on being in Eubank Junior's dressing room after the fight, and what did Blackwell tell Elliot about adjusting to life without boxing? Elliot also studies the topic of deaths in boxing and how it impacted the fighters involved. So I'm about to tell you about the main themes in the book and how it gripped and disturbed me in equal measure. Now, shortly before Eubank Jr. took the British title from Blackwell in 10 rounds, Worsell immersed himself in both fighters' camps and heard particularly haunting statements, especially from Chris Eubank Senior. The former WBO king said of his son, "Watch what I say, he is the danger. He wants to be dangerous. He is building himself up to be dangerous. Junior has mean intentions, bad intentions." Eubank added about his son, "He's cold, driven, insular, warmonger." Eubank Senior warned Blackwell directly before the fight, "This is not a game." And as Worsell gets further into the threats ahead of the fight, he writes how Eubank Senior will actually pause when he's talking and raise their finger for emphasis. And I really like the kind of detail embedded in the prose, because it really kind of just throws you into the conversation, and you can almost hear the silence between Eubank Senior's words, which makes it even more of a tense and unsettling read, I think. Worsell spoke to Blackwell before the fight about how he had dedicated his life to boxing. Blackwell told Elliot, "This thing boxing, it takes up all your time." I start to think, will my life always be like this? Blackwell added, "I've got no time for friends, family, anything. It's a bit of a worry." It's such a credit to Worsell that he manages to extract these really kind of personal monologues out of the fighters, and it just made the book really gripping and just made me want to read on. Blackwell told Elliot that he actually could find escapism in surfing, but he admitted, "When I'm training hard, getting punched in the head, I feel like that's where I should be." Indeed, Blackwell was drawn to his deadly profession. After all, just 10 days removed from the final fight of his life, Blackwell suffered a concussion in sparring with George Groves. Fight night would be similarly dark as 2,500 fans at the Wembley Arena celebrated violence, as Worsell put it. Both men stood prone and traded shots on the inside as if their boots were nailed to the canvas. Eubank's volleys of punches just damaged Blackwell irrevocably. Worsell describes these as blast beat combinations, noting how they rocked Blackwell's head back like a speedball. There's one point where Worsell talks about how Blackwell will kind of just stick his tongue out through his bloody mask and how he'll really just relish the onslaught. There's a part where Blackwell's trainer, Gary Lockett, says to Nick, he's in the corner and he says to him, "Look, do you like taking these uppercuts?" And as Eubank Jr. continues to paint his own grim picture, in his corner, Eubank Senior tells him, "If the referee doesn't stop it, I don't know what to tell you. 1, he's getting hurt, and 2, why hasn't the referee stopped it? Take him out to the body." Now, was this Eubank Senior showing real compassion after what happened to Watson, or was it simply the best tactics for his son? Regardless, shortly into round 10, the referee asked the doctor to take a look at Blackwell's left eye, which was slammed shut, and thank goodness both officials rightly declared Eubank the winner by stoppage. Moments later, Blackwell felt woozy and left the ring on a stretcher. In the next few hours after the fight, we actually learned that Blackwell was left in a coma with a bleed on his skull, and he would wake up 6 days later. Elliot waited with Blackwell's friends at St Mary's Hospital in London. Elliot writes, "The not knowing is the worst part. I hugged Nick's best friend Jake because it's the only human thing to do in the moment. But that's it." And some of these moments in the book are just so intimate, and it's a real credit to Elliot's prose. There's later a feeling in the book that Worsell almost feels complicit because he was working in PR to promote the fight between Blackwell and Eubank Jr. He reflects, I'm guilty by proxy. I was there. I wanted a war. He feels further conflicted when he compares boxers to addicts who lie to themselves on a constant basis. They tell themselves they're not hurt. They tell themselves they can win. They tell themselves their brains are healthy enough for another bout. Worsell also takes us into the Eubank Junior dressing room straight after the fight, with Junior in the shower, Eubank Senior eating pineapple chunks, and trainer Ronnie Davies ranting about how he felt Blackwell was thrown to the wolves. Davies said, "I knew Blackwell would be too brave for his own good." So while I want to focus on Blackwell in this video because I think he's the real thread which kind of drives the emotion of the book, Worsell also looks at fatalities in boxing and how these have impacted the fighters involved. He discusses Rocky Kelly, who outlasted Steve Watt in a macabre bout in 1986, and the legendary Ray Mancini, who ramped up the violence with Duke Koo Kim in 1982. Kelly stopped Watt in the 10th round of their non-title welterweight bout and claimed he had a feeling this wouldn't be any normal fight. It wasn't, and Watt died in hospital the next day owing to a bleed on the brain. Now, although Kelly was quite a humble man and he didn't really do any trash talk or anything like that, he actually told Watt the day before the fight, "Steve, you know I'm willing to die for this." Worsell's research into this is so impressive because I'd never really heard anything about this story, and he kind of pulls out the really emotive and important points so well. Perhaps more famous was Mancini's chilling 14th round victory over Kim. This bout is actually widely attributed to governing bodies slowly but surely pulling title fights from 15 rounds to 12 rounds to make them so much safer. And no, he's no relation to that Mancini. We learn from Worsell that Kim was fighting for something bigger than his career, and his wife was actually pregnant. He was paid $20,000 for the fight compared to Mancini's $200,000. And he actually frequently slept on his gym floor. Before the bout, Kim knew the darkness he was willing to enter, and he wrote on his hotel lampshade, "Live or die." Mancini said he leaned on his Christian faith to get through the event, and said that if he didn't, he may well have been driven to drink and perhaps even suicide. Unlike Kim, Kelly, and so many others, Blackwell lived to tell the tale, but he emerged a changed man, and although he would never like to admit it, he knew that he would never box again. Elliot writes about how he and Blackwell would chat in a cafe as Nick pondered his new life and how he wanted to avoid sugar and get back to his prior level of fitness. But Worsell writes of how Blackwell just craved that adrenaline rush and needed something to replace the delicious thrill of getting hit. He points to the danger of Blackwell's permanent state, always seeking the next high. During life after boxing, Blackwell once jumped 40 feet off a cliff into the sea in Cornwall. 7 months after leaving his coma, he actually sparred with light heavyweight Hassan Kakadi and was left with a swelling on the brain. He then had to have surgery to resolve this, and actually to reduce the swelling he had to have part of his skull removed. Kakadi's trainer Liam Wilkins had his licence withdrawn, and Kakadi was given a 6-month suspension. The British Boxing Board of Control said the event was detrimental to the best interests of boxing. I mean, goodness me, that's putting it lightly. It was a fucking disgrace is what it is. So to sum up, this is just one of the most introspective and emotionally charged sports books I've ever read. It's such a cathartic experience to read the book, and I also think Elliot's writing has really improved since his previous book, Making Hay, about David Haye, which, by the way, I should say is also still a really excellent book too. I feel like since Making Hay, his metaphors have become a little bit stripped back, which just makes the prose a little bit smoother to read. So yeah, I did like that point of the book too. One of the other things I really love about Elliot Worsell is his approach to journalism. It's kind of like gonzo journalism where he just kind of throws you in it. If you've never read anything, it's almost like if there was like a Louis Theroux documentary about boxing, like that's what it would be like. Some of the most emotive parts of the book are when Blackwell is talking to Elliot about how he wants to prepare for the next stage of his life. There's another really intimate moment where Worsell and Kelly actually walk around the London West Hotel in Fulham, where Kelly actually fought Watt. There's another super emotive moment where Worsell and Mancini meet each other at a dinner event, and Mancini actually becomes really upset when the screens start playing his fight against Kim. And the likes of Kim, Watt, Gerald McLennan, and so many others have been destroyed and in a lot of cases killed because of boxing. In his pomp, Chris Eubank Senior actually called boxing a mugs game. It's therefore significant that Blackwell at one point in the book tells Worsell the whole boxing game is corrupt. It's more of a business than a sport. It's a mugs game. So one thing's for certain, Blackwell is now so much safer that he's away from the most dangerous of mugs games. So that pretty much sums it up. I absolutely love this book. It was just one of the most gripping books I've ever read. Thanks so much. I'll be back very soon and see you soon.